Okay. All right. There are still going to be people joining. Oops. Sorry, I just hit admit. There's still going to be people joining us as we go, but we're going to go ahead and get started because it is 7 and we want to honor it's 8. Sorry, it's 8 o'clock. We want to honor everybody's time and try to get you out of here as quickly as possible. So I'm Catherine Eklund, and I am the chair of the department, and I am one of the faculty who teach 455 field experience. And so we're going to walk you through what it is and what you need to do to get into the class tonight. So just as a reminder, every student is required to have an applied integrative learning experience in order to graduate. That's part of your general education package. And we have 2 applied integrative learning options in the department. One is field experience, Psych 455, and one is 475, research experience. We're not going to talk about research experience in here at all. If you're interested in doing research experience, if you're a Bachelor's of Arts student, you need to do 455, but you can do a research experience as well as an elective. If you're a BS student, you do need to take a 475. You can do a 455 as one of your electives. So you can do both. If you want to do a research experience, you just need to connect with a faculty member about their research lab, and you can find all the information about their labs on our department website. Okay. And then you just contact that faculty member about joining their research lab. Otherwise, we're going to be talking about field experience because this is the class that most students end up taking. And it's a little bit more complex in terms of getting ready to start the class. So, hey, why isn't it advancing? There we go. Okay. And so here is our advising sheet. You guys have all seen it multiple
Want to just do this one?
for the years. And so,
Yeah.
I mean, you. Okay.
I have to.
And so, the domain we're talking about today is the domain 3, applied learning. So, and that's where it talks about 455. You've got to take it if you're getting a BA. You got to take 475 if you're getting a BS, but you can take the class multiple times. You can take 455 3 times total. You can take 475 4 times total. So basically you can do 1.5 years worth of field experience if you so choose. So it is a repeatable course. You do need to take one in order to advance to your graduation for your general ed. And you have to take one for the major. So it's one class that will count towards your general ed and to your bachelor's. Okay, most important thing, you guys hear this at every one of our events, the most important thing is our website. So psychology.apu.edu. We are constantly posting important things there. You need to go there. You can find the information about 455 online. And so you go to the psychology.apu.edu. Then you go on the left, there's the columns of options. You go to field experience, Psych 475. PRPS, I'm sorry, 455 PRPS. You can go to that tab for information about field experience, and then you can go to the research experience tab for information about research experience. Okay, so here's what here's what our department website looks like. When you click undergraduate programs, you'll get those options for those classes to come up. Okay, when should you take your field experience? So if you are headed to graduate school, you're going to want to take your field experience during your junior year. Okay. And the reason for that is because it will give you an opportunity. We'll talk a little bit about what is the purpose of field experience, but it will give you an opportunity to get your field experience before you're applying to graduate school. Okay. If you're going to graduate and go straight into the workforce, maybe take some time off before going to grad school, or you have no interest in going to grad school, you're just going to go out and get a job, then we recommended taking your field experience during your senior year, because it's not uncommon that job offers come out of these field experiences. So if you're going to be going into the workforce, you may want to do it in your senior year so that you will be graduating and be able to take a job. If you're headed to the workforce in your junior year, you get offered a job, you really can't take it because you got to finish your degree. But again, if you're headed to grad school, it's good to have a field experience to put on your grad school apps, resumes, that kind of thing. Okay, so junior year for grad school bound, senior year for workforce bound. Okay, So what is field experience? Here is a link to the field experience. By the way, after this recording, we'll be posting the recording on the website, so you can come back to it anytime. But this website here takes you straight to the field experience tab in our department website. So again, all BA majors are required to take at least one 455. And then field experience is designed to provide developmental and professional skills under the direct supervision in an applied setting. So it's an internship. You have to do 100 hours of service to the applied agency. So, your average 3-unit course requires a minimum of 135 hours worth of experience across the 16-week or 8-week term. And so the field experiences are all 16 weeks. Whether you're a regional campus student or a Azusa campus, you're going to be in field experience for 16 weeks. And you have to do 100 hours over the course of that 16 weeks. So that means you're going to be going to class once a week as well, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And then you'll have some writing that you need to do as well. So you're going to end up doing a minimum of 40 hours for the class, but 100 of it has to be out in the field, which is roughly, if you put in 8 hours a week, you'll get to your 100 fairly easily. Okay. And if you do the math, 8 hours times 16 is more than 100, but you're going to get sick. There's going to, depending on where you work, there's going to be weeks where like spring break, if you're in a school setting, you won't get hours over school break. If you get sick, you'll lose hours that way. So we tend to recommend plan for at least 8 hours a week across the whole semester. And that way it assures you get to your 100 hours. Okay. For most students, the field experience needs to involve working directly with individuals or groups served by the assigned agency. Okay. So there are, if you are headed career-wise into anything that is going to be human service related, becoming a therapist or becoming a teacher or becoming a school psychologist or becoming a nurse or whatever you want to do, becoming a lawyer, whatever you're going to want to do, you're going to be working with people. So we want your field experience to involve working with people. The exception to that could be if you are headed to organizational psychology or human resources or some kind of business track. Then you may end up working behind the scenes in an agency where you're working more in that supportive role for the people who are working with the people. Okay, but only if you're headed into like an org psych kind of place will we approve a more behind the scenes internship. We want you to be out there working with people. Okay, in addition, you'll have weekly interaction with your on-site mentor or supervisor. And that has to be a minimum of 45 minutes to an hour each week of either individual or group supervision. Now, that doesn't mean that it has to be all at one setting. So you may find yourself in a setting where they're going to meet with you for like 15 or 20 minutes at the beginning of your day to get you set up, and then another 30 minutes at the end of your day to debrief. Or they might meet with you, 15 minutes in increments throughout your day. But you have to have at least 45 minutes to an hour every week in supervision with your on-site mentor. And then also each week you'll go to class on your campus. So Azusa campus for Azusa students and your regional campuses for the regional students. And you'll be in class for like an hour and a half every week with your faculty, on-campus faculty member. Now, for those of you in the asynchronous online class, that's a little bit different. You'll be doing your interactions with your faculty through your asynchronous online course. You'll be evaluated in your performance, including a formal evaluation at the midterm and at the end of the semester. But in those regular contacts with your field supervisor, they should be giving you feedback on a regular basis, but there's a formal evaluation at midterm and at the end of the semester. So what we need you to do is we need you to meet with, unless you've already secured a spot, if you've already secured a site, or in the next few weeks, if you secure a site, then you can skip this step. But if in the next few weeks you do not have a site, you need to meet with your faculty instructor. We don't have a field coordinator right now, so you need to meet with the faculty instructor. So registration's gonna open soon. Once you register, you're going to register for a particular faculty. And if you don't have a site already secured, you're going to schedule a meeting with that faculty member in order to begin the process of securing sites. So what will that conversation look like? The conversation will start out with, what do you want to do when you graduate? Okay, and from there, we'll start exploring what are your options for field experience. Okay, so because really the goal is to help you, if you don't know what you want to do when you graduate, help either rule in or rule out your options based on field experience, or if you do know what you want to do, get experience so it makes you more competitive in either grad school or the workforce. So, so we're going to try to link it to what your career goals are. You'll need to apply to the organizations that you choose to seek an internship at. And that may involve interviewing and background checking. And that can take a couple months to get through that process. So that's why we want you to get started now. Classes start early January. If you're not working on securing your site by the beginning of November, which is why we're meeting now, you may not have a site by the beginning of January because of the process. So just like getting hired by a company, it takes a little while. So getting an internship secured takes a while as well. And then students who have not been cleared to begin their direct service work by the end of the ad drop period will be asked to drop the class. If you're not graduating that semester, you'll be asked to drop the class because we don't want you to get into a situation where you don't have a site and now you've just paid for 3 units and you're not going to be able to get the credit. So you need to have a site by the time the ad drop period ends. Okay, how do you select a site? Reflect on your career goals. It's your chance to explore your career interests while applying psychology principles in the field. We have a list of potential sites on our website. So when you go to this link right here, will take you to the field sites, and there's a Google Sheets document there, and there's also a bunch of options within the website as well. So there's a list of all sites that will take you to a Google Sheet, and it's organized by region. So like there's the Murrieta and High Desert regions, there's the Azusa regions, and then the regular site also has like LA County options. We have an LA County internship program with the LA County the County of Los Angeles has an internship program with thousands of internship options in there, so you can go explore that. So lots of options for you to explore. Once you see something that looks interesting to you, Google the agency, learn about it, make sure it's something that you're interested in doing in terms of the kind of environment, the kind of work that they do, the kind of population they serve. You're going to look to see, oh yes, this is exactly what I think I'd love to do, or this is the kind of population I'd love to work with. I want to apply to see if I can get an internship there. If you need to, again, meet with your professor. They can help you brainstorm where to look. Also, you can look outside of the website. That list is not exhaustive. It's just a springboard for you. So if you, for instance, start looking at residential care centers for children and youth, and the ones on our website are like 50 miles from your home, you can Google and do research on the internet for residential facilities in your area. A good place to look for that is your county's DMH website. You can go to your county's DMH website and in their search bar put residential treatment. Or if you're interested in doing substance use internship, you can go to your local. If you don't see anything in your local area on our website, just Google, substance use treatment in your city or in your county, and you'll find your way to agencies that are in your area of interest. So you can find your own agency, doing your own research, and then you reach out. You're not limited to the list on our website. It is just a springboard for you. Okay, so what are you going to do next? After this meeting, you'll begin to identify agencies that you would like to contact about a placement as a volunteer fieldwork / practicum / intern person. So this is an important thing. We call your experience fieldwork. Some agencies may call it an undergraduate internship. Some places may call it an undergraduate practicum. Some places may call it just a volunteer, student volunteer. So when you're contacting agencies, you need to be clear that you're a student from APU looking for a place to volunteer for your fieldwork / internship, or fieldwork internship experience. Use a couple of those verbs or nouns, nouns. Fieldwork, practicum, internship, student volunteer. So you want to use a couple of those phrases because every organization will call it something different. Okay, but basically once you find the agency you're interested in, you've researched it on the internet, you're going to contact them and ask to speak to the volunteer coordinator in the human resources department or the internship coordinator. Okay, or the field work coordinator. So you're going to ask to speak to the coordinator in the human resources department, and you're going to introduce yourself and your goal. You're looking for a place to do your undergraduate internship hours. You want to use the level of professionalism and communication skills that you would use if you were seeking a full-time professional position. So now I know many of you have not ever worked in the professional environment. Many of you maybe have never had a job. And many of you may be nervous about getting on the phone and talking to people or sending in your resume or scheduling interviews. But this is part of that process. We make you do this because this is what you're going to be doing for grad school. This is what you're going to be doing in the workforce, is making these cold calls and going to meet people that you've never met before to interview for either grad school or for a job. So you're gonna teach yourself professionalism in this process and communicate over the phone, and show up and communicate in person. Again, you're provided the list at this link. Again, the link shows up a couple places. Again, it's just a springboard. You can secure placement in an agency that is not on that list. Okay, once you decide where you want to do your internship, then you need to check the website, this same website, under the list of field experience agencies, and check the affiliation agreement status. If you're not sure, you can contact Chloe and at chloeyin@apu.edu to verify. She can look up to see if we have an active affiliation agreement. If we do not have a current affiliation agreement, then once you're hired for the field placement, then what you'll need to do is to provide their supervisor with a link to the affiliation agreement. Okay, at this time, we don't have a field coordinator. And so you're going to work directly with your faculty member or with Chloe Yin to let them know who you gave the link to the affiliation agreement form to. Okay, because what's going to happen is in most agencies, the person that's going to be your direct supervisor is not going to be the person that's going to sign the affiliation agreement. Okay, and so you're going to give that link to your supervisor or your human resources volunteer coordinator. They're going to pass it off to somebody else, and it's going to take a while before it gets returned. Okay, and so we just need to know, tell your faculty member, tell Chloe Yin, who did you give it to? So when it's been a few weeks and we haven't gotten it back, we can start trying to track it down. Okay, now what your faculty member will probably do is to ask you first, can you check in with your supervisor about the status of your affiliation agreement before we start trying to track it down? But eventually we often have to try to track them down. So we need to know who you gave it to at the beginning of the semester so we can start that process of tracking down after a few weeks. Okay. What happens after you've secured a site? So you've found a site that you found sites you want to apply to, you reach out, you get an interview, somebody offers you an internship. Yay, you have an internship. So what you want to do is you need to, one, follow your site's agency's requirements for onboarding. Okay. Now, again, on our department website, this link will take you to this information. So under field experience, it's department requirements. But basically, you got to get hired. So you got to follow your agency's requirements for onboarding. That may involve fingerprinting. It may involve orientation meetings at the organization. It may involve background checks. It could involve filling out forms or specific trainings. Some of you may have to go through CPR certification. You don't know. Follow the agency's requirements for getting you onboarded. And then you're going to identify and communicate with your direct supervisor before the beginning of the semester. So before the semester starts, you want to know who are you going to be reporting to at that site? Who do you need to meet with when the semester starts? Okay. And then when you have that person's name, you want to provide the link on our website for to the supervisor. So the supervisor can see what the requirements are for them, because there are requirements for you for this class. There are requirements for the supervisor as well. So before the semester starts, you want to make sure you send them the link through an email communication. Here's the link to my university's field experience requirements. It'll share with you what is required of me and what is required of you and the university in this process. Because the affiliation agreement is basically just the legal document that says everybody's responsible for themselves. The website kind of says, okay, here's what the student should be doing. Here's what you as the supervisor should be doing. Here's what we as faculty are going to be doing. So it gives them a more fuller understanding of what the experience is supposed to be for you. Again, if needed, request that the affiliation agreement be given to the correct person, and then communicate with your professor and Chloe who that person is. And then also in the first week of your internship, you need to ask your field supervisor to complete the learning agreement. So you can print off the learning agreement from the website, or you can provide a link to your supervisor for that form on the website. But that needs to be filled out within the first few weeks of your internship. So that we say in the website, it needs to be within the first 2 weeks. Sometimes it'll take a little bit longer than that, but really it does need to be done in the first 2 to 4 times that you're at the internship site. Because what the learning agreement is, it's basically the contract between you and your supervisor. It's where the supervisor is telling you what they expect for you to do and what you will learn from your experience. So it's not the contract between APU and that organization. It's the contract between you and your supervisor. Okay. And then you also need to go into the website before the semester starts and sign and return the release of liability form for COVID-19 form. So this is a COVID-19 thing. If you're going to be out in the field, you have to fill out this release of liability form for APU. So if your faculty is using Canvas, they may have you upload it directly into Canvas. So you just print it out, sign it, upload it into Canvas. Okay. All right, and then what happens next is you start your internship. Yay! And you need to start a time log. So as soon as you are onboarded, you're going to start your time log. There's a link on the website for the time log. Do not fill it out on that link, because then everybody's going to see your information. You're going to download that time log, and you're going to maintain a time log for yourself. You can print it out and do it in handwriting, or you can leave it on your computer and type the information in. But you do need to keep your time log current. You're going to return the COVID AOR and the learning agreement within the first 2 or 3 classes. You're going to begin reflection journals at the first week of class. So this will all be in the syllabus as well, but basically part of the learning experience is reflection. You're going to go to your field site, and then you're going to go home or go to the local park or whatever and reflect on what you learned. Reflect on how you're seeing psychology that you've learned in the classroom coming to life in the field. You're also going to reflect on what you're learning about yourself and what you're learning about the people that you serve. So there's a lot of reflection time, and you're gonna journal your reflections every week for the class. And then there's one paper that you have to write, and it's really cool because our department, we're using field experience to kind of model the practitioner scholar model of psychology. The practitioner scholar model basically says that before you go out into the field and you're practicing a psychological practice, you're making sure that you've become a scholar in that practice. So what that means is you're going to go do some research about what you're going to be doing, or the population you're going to be serving, or the kinds of interventions that you're going to be engaging in. You and your site supervisor and or you and your professor can help you narrow down the focus of your paper. It'll be an exploratory literature review paper, meaning you're going to look up at least 4 different resources that are scholarly in nature. So let's say that you're working in a rehab facility. You know, you're a staff counselor in a facility that's working with substance abuse people. You're going to go to like NIDA or NIH. You're going to go to like the scholarly websites in that field and draw down literature about substance abuse addiction and about treatment and about the population that you're serving in treatment, with whether it's adults or teenagers or whatever. And you're just going to read about 4 different resources, and then you're going to write a short APA style paper that summarizes what you learned about about the focus of your paper. And the focus of your paper is going to be linked to what you're going to be doing. So that's due in the first third of the semester, because it's that idea that before you go out and do stuff, you learn about it. That's that practitioner scholar. Before you go out to do stuff, you learn about it. So once you know, you can actually start this before the beginning of the semester. Once you have your site picked, start reading about the site and the professions that are attached to that site, or the professions that you're going to be seeking to learn from in that site, or the population that you're going to serve in that site. So you're going to start doing your reading. You can do that before the semester starts, make your notes, and then within the 4 weeks, you're going to write a short, I think it's about 4 or 5 pages, APA style paper summarizing what you learned. Okay. And again, this is all on our department website under requirements. All right, then what's next? So in order to get started on this whole journey, you do need to be here tonight. So you're all here tonight. And if you're not here tonight, then you're gonna have to watch this video online. And once you've done that, then you're gonna go to psychology field placement at APU EDU. You're gonna send an email to psychology field placement, or sorry, psych field placement. So you're gonna wanna make a note of this, psych field placement at apu.edu. Okay, that's an email that comes directly to our department. Okay, in that email, you're going to put your name, your student ID number, the course section and the faculty member that you're wanting to enroll in for 455. So if you're in the regional campuses, just say PRPS 455 Professor Naranjo, or PRPS 455 Professor Lascano. And if you're in the Psych PSYC, if you're on the Azusa campus, you're going to put the same information. You put your name, your student ID, and what class you want to enroll in. Okay. Now for the Psych students, the Azusa students, we are then going to, once we get your email, Chloe or your professors will be issuing you a permission code. You have about 48 hours to insert that permission code into your enrollment before the code expires. So once you get that permission code, you got to go in and enroll right away. Okay. If on the other hand, you're in the regional campus program, then you're gonna hear back from Melanie Naranjo, and she's gonna get you the forms that you need to get enrolled in the class. Okay, so this is after tonight. You can do this, or after you've watched this video online, you can send an email with your name, the faculty, the course that you're wanting to enroll in, and your student ID number. Okay. Any questions? Melanie, did we have questions?
We do. So there's some good ones in here. So the first question is, does this have to be an unpaid internship? Can it be paid?
That is such a great question. And again, that is a great question that is answered on the department website in the field experience section. It can be paid. If you can get paid to do what counts for field experience, more power to you. Getting paid is always better than not getting paid. So, but expect that you'll probably end up with an unpaid field experience. Do not go out, don't set that bar for yourself that you have to find a paid experience. I would say about 90+% of students do unpaid internships. But if you're already working in an environment, or you get hired in an environment, that the criteria, and the website also has the criteria, what qualifies as an internship site. It does not matter if they pay you or not.
Great.
Great question.
Yeah. And then how do we know if the site we have in mind is something that qualifies? How do we know it qualifies as the internship?
Yes, that is also an important question. So essentially, if you're going to be working with people, okay, whether it's you're going to be an aide in a classroom for special needs kids, or you're going to be a ABA, what do they call it? ABA tech, where you're going to be going and doing interventions with developmentally delayed kids, or you're going to be working again with groups of people in different settings. As long as you're working with people and the site is providing you the required supervision, and that's under the site expectations, they have to have somebody who's going to supervise you that hour a week in some fragments, and that will mentor you in what it is that they do in those service industries, right? For the most part, anything that meets those criteria should count. Where you might be in a situation that it won't count is, for instance, if you want to work for an NGO and they want you to file papers, or they want you to do event planning for fundraisers. Now, if your goal is to become an event planner for fundraisers for NGOs, then we might be able to make that work. But if your goal is to become a therapist in a nonprofit, that is not going to work, because that's not going to help you learn that. So it really depends on, if you're working with people, it's probably going to count, and they're going to provide you the supervision that you need. It's probably going to count. If you're not working with the consumers, you're going to be working behind the scenes for consumer-based agencies. You need to talk to your faculty member to see if it'll count. Because what we won't count is administrative efforts. So if you're going to be filing paperwork or transcribing legal documents or things like that, you're not probably going to get that approved. But always talk to your professor that you're enrolled in, just to get clarified. This is what I've been asked to do for internship. Will that count? So once you've identified a place, just connect with your faculty to make sure.
Great. And then can our internship be used for service credits at APU? So this is specific to Azusa campus students. Regional campus students do not have to do service credits. So can it be used for service credits?
Yes, so it can be counted, but the service credit office limits it to 30 of your hours. So 30 hours of service credits can be applied. So that is, I think they've simplified that a lot. You just go onto the website, you enter in your service site email, and they can affirm it. So they've made it very simple. But yes, even though you have to do an hour, you can't get 100 service credits. Hopefully you're not that far behind, but you can get 30 service credits from the experience. So yes.
Awesome. Can the internship be at APU?
Yes, APU, if you again have a in front of the lines position, it can count. If you can find an internship at APU that's going to have you working with the people that APU serves, which is students, that would be absolutely fine.
And okay, I will clarify a few things that are in the chat. If you're receiving a permission code, that permission code, when you go to enroll into a course, right before you say add to your cart, there's a little box that says permission code, or check the box for the wait list as needed. You will put the code into that box right before you say add to cart. So please know that. Another important thing to note is, because that code is only good for 48 hours, you will want to wait until registration is open or near your registration window. So for main campus students, you would have been sent a date and time that your registration is going to open. You should send us an email to psych field placement at apu.edu 48 hours prior to when that registration window is open for you specifically. If you are a regional campus student, we just have to wait to fill out the form until registration opens, which is on November 9th for everybody. Okay. How do you know what faculty member is teaching your course? It'll say who the professor is. So when you go to enroll in your courses, it'll say the faculty member. Okay, just looking through any other questions. Oh, what if you start your field site and you go through the first week or so, but you find out you really don't like what you're doing and you don't think this is the right fit? What do you do?
Yeah, so field experiences that you've committed to, that you discover, wow, this is not a population I want to work with. It's a valuable learning experience, right? You've learned that this is not what you want to do. But if you've made a commitment and they're to a site and there's not like a hours problem, like they're not getting you your hours, or some kind of ethical problem, you need to finish your commitment. You do need to finish your commitment. That's part of kind of professional development. We're all going to have internship experiences in our professional development, or jobs in our professional development that aren't what we thought they would be, but we've made a commitment for a period of time. In this case, you've made a commitment for a semester, so you do need to see it through. Now, for APU, besides trying to help you rule in and rule out what you want to do as a career, remember the goal is to help you see psychology come to life. So even if you're not enjoying what you're doing in the classroom, when we're talking about your experiences, you're going to be able to still see psychology that you've learned coming to life in those experiences. And it's a super valuable experience to discover what you don't want to do. Okay. It could potentially save you $40,000 of graduate tuition, right? If you spend a year in grad school, because most grad programs, you have to be in grad school for a year before you start practicing. So if this internship experience convinces you, I do not want to work in hospitals, or I don't want to work with kids, or I don't want to work with old people, or whatever it is that you're discovering about yourself, it could save you a lot of money in grad school tuition once you discover that's not for you. Okay, but keep your commitments unless there's a hours problem or an ethical problem, and you can't quit without walking through it with your faculty member. Your faculty member will be the one to guide you through that process, because there's a resolution process. If there's a problem, the faculty member and the site supervisor will need to connect to see if we can't resolve the challenge so that you can keep your commitment.
Can you clarify what the role of the supervisor is at the site versus what the faculty's role is?
Yes. Okay. So the site supervisor's role is essentially the site supervisor's role is always the most number one role, is to make sure that you do no harm. Yeah. So they're there to make sure that what you're doing doesn't harm anyone. And then secondly, they're there to help you develop skills in what they're skilled in. So if they're supervising you, for instance, if they're supervising you in a hospital doing child life stuff, they should have child life skills so that they can be teaching you those skills in the field. That's their job. Protect the people that you're serving and then teach you the skills in the field. Okay. The on-campus faculty member's job is to process those experiences with you and really help you. You've learned a lot of psychology. Now we have to help you see it come to life, so that when you're, for instance, working with, let's say you're working with kids, that you're noticing their developmental levels and their milestones and their challenges, and you can name them and you can see the psychology. If you're working with families and you've had family psychology class, we're going to help you see those dynamics of enmeshment, or, parentified children, or disengagement, or anxious attachments, or whatever. It's going to be in the class where we're going to really help you kind of put psychology understanding to the experience that you've had.
Perfect. So, and just to further clarify too, you do not use your faculty member teaching your course is not the supervisor that goes on your form. So the faculty member is just the person facilitating the course and doing debriefing and stuff with you in the classroom, but they're not the same as the supervisor at your field site. Another great question, we won't go into details, but some students are asking if they want to do a research lab, can they use the research lab as their field site? I will just easily answer that. It's actually a different course. So if you're trying to do a research lab with one of our faculty members, that's actually Psych 475. And so if you are a BA major, 455 is technically required, but it's no problem. You can take 475 and just fill out a general academic petition to have 475 count instead of 455.
Yes. And if you're a student who does not have transportation to get to a field experience, that's an option you need to consider, is to do a 475 in lieu, but you do have to fill out that petition and you have to find a faculty member to do research with. But transportation is going to be critical to getting to your site. So if you're in a situation where you're within walking distance, there's basically one site within walking distance from the Azusa campus. It's Homework House, where you get to work with an after-school program that does tutoring and social development for kids in the Azusa schools. And it's like over behind the Taco Bell. So it's a little bit of a walk, but a very small walk. So that would be your only close by, or if you find an internship on campus. Otherwise, you're going to want to think about doing a 475 research experience.
And then it looks like the last question we have is, if the student submitted a affiliation agreement a few months ago, would that still be active? How do we know whether or not?
Yes, so we are working on making sure our affiliation agreements are up to date. And so, but the affiliation agreements are good for either 3 or 5 years. And so if you just got one signed, it's good for 3 or 5 years. We just have to get the website updated.
Okay, if you have any other questions, please put them in the chat. Yeah, I'm just going to read through them. Oh, where can you find the petition to take 475? If you are an Azusa student, it, I believe, is in your home.apu.edu account, but you might have to go to the Undergraduate Enrollment Services office to get that. They changed it, so we're still figuring that out. If you're a regional campus student, it is on the Graduate and Professional website under forms. Okay. If you're a psych minor, is 455 required?
No, it is not. If you're a psych minor, you have a couple requirements and then it's all electives. So if you don't want to do a 455, it is not required for psych minor. Now, if you're a substance abuse minor, it is required to do one for the substance abuse minor.
It's required to do 2 for the substance abuse.
Sorry.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was going to also mention that if you are definitely going to need to take the class this semester or this coming semester, spring, if you could maybe raise your hand real quick. So Chloe, you could not raise your hand on the Zoom hand, raise your Zoom hand. That's under the, where is it? Under the, what's it called? There we go. You guys are finding your Zoom hand. Raise your Zoom hand. Chloe, can you kind of take a quick count for people who know for sure they're going to be doing it in the spring? Just so we can try to get a sense for, do we need to add any additional sections? Melanie, any other questions coming through?
Nope, I think Chloe just clarified that the academic general petition for main campus Azusa students, you actually have to go to the Undergraduate Enrollment Services office, which is located at the backside of East Campus over by IMT and the Academic Success Center, like where the baseball fields and stuff are. So you will have to go over there and request it yourself, and then you fill it out and you turn it into our office for signatures. And it's an easy petition, so you don't have to worry about it getting denied.
There's roughly 40, by the way, that have
Okay.
raised their hands.
And if you're here and you're thinking you're going to do it next fall, that's great that you're here. When you will need to start working on that for fall will depend on where you live. So if you live locally, then you can wait till summer to start working on it. If you live in Iowa, you're going to need to work on it in March to get something set up before you leave in May. for the fall. So if you are going to take it in the fall semester, start working on it around enrollment time in the spring. Also, we do offer a summer option for all students to take 455 during the summer. For those of you who are not local and your plan after you graduate is to return home, we encourage you to think about taking it over the summer in your home community. If your plan is to move back home, find an internship in your home community where you'll make the connections you need to go back and get jobs when you graduate. So we do have a summer offering. It's the full 16 weeks during the summer, and it's offered on the asynchronous online option. So you're doing more writing online in the asynchronous than the talking. The talking we do in class is converted into writing in the asynchronous online class. But that is an option that we encourage you. If you know you're not going to stay in the local area after you graduate, think about taking it during the summer where you think you're going to land after graduation, because you'll make good professional contacts that way.
One more question came through. If you plan on doing IO Psych, is it better to do 475 or 455?
So we have a couple of sites that work well with students who want to be IO type folks. And so I think there are options for field experience with IO. I think if you can get a good field experience, that's probably better for going the IO route than doing a research experience. Unless you're planning to get your doctorate in organizational psych, then I'd say do the research experience. But if you're thinking about going into our master's program in org psych, I would say do the field experience.
Any other questions? Speak now. I do see a question from one of the
I have
students.
a question.
Oh, go for
Go
it.
ahead.
I missed this, but do we need to do two field experiences experiences if we're minoring in substance abuse? I missed that response.
Yes, you do. Well, I
Yes.
believe, yes, you do.
Mhm.
And those, it's not required that they be in substance use environments, but if you can get them in substance use environments, that gets you started on your clinical hours that you need for certification. So, but if you can't find a location near where you're at to do those hours in a substance use thing, we can hook you up with a different type of experience. And then after you graduate, you'll have to do all of your hours towards your certification in a paid position or after you graduate.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mhm. And then just a clarification on evaluations, the evaluations that we do as part of class. So you get evaluated as a student at your internship, and you also have the opportunity to evaluate your field sites so that we know if they're a good site for us to recommend to other students. And so that's all done through the class, and there's a link that we send out or we provide to you to give to your supervisor. So hopefully that helps answer that question.
Yes. You'll also be evaluated by your faculty member, because this is our capstone course. So your faculty member may do that with your involvement as well. So you'll be evaluated by your site. You'll evaluate your site, and then your faculty. The way I do it is I do a collaborative evaluation. Some faculty may just do it on their own and never share with you. I tend to do a collaborative where I ask you to fill out, and then I'll go over it with you. And we'll talk about how you're viewing your growth in the areas that we evaluate as part of our APU program. In terms of, as you're graduating, are you leaving with the skills that we're hoping you have when you leave?
Sorry, I had a follow-up question for the substance abuse.
Yes.
So if we did one of our field experiences in like a rehab facility or something that would qualify for substance abuse hours, can we do that twice?
Yes. If you have a site that you've done it, you can do the same site a second time.
Okay, and does it have to be consecutive or can I take like a break and then go back?
That is between you and that site. If the site says
Okay,
you can come back after 6 months, then you can come back after 6 months.
gotcha. Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, and then another question came through about if you take the class over the summer, can you use your grants and scholarships on those courses? My understanding is typically no. Usually financial aid only covers traditional semesters, so fall and spring, but it is different for some students. So it's a great question for you to ask the financial aid office just to make sure you plan accordingly.
But the summer, just so you know, if it doesn't cover at the summer price point for the traditional undergraduate, well, actually, you'd be taking the PRPS course during the summer, and that is cheaper than the per unit course at the Azusa campus. So you would be getting a reduced rate.
Yeah, it is cheaper
course.
over the summer, but financial aid doesn't necessarily cover it.
Any other questions? Okay, so whoop, how did those lines get on there? I don't know where those lines came from. Sorry about that. So, okay, if there are no more questions, then psych field placement at apu.edu. For those of you that are at the regional campuses, you can send that email anytime. For those of you that are at the Azusa campus, again, 48 hours before your enrollment opens, send the email with your name, your student ID, the class you're wanting to enroll in, and the professor's name, and then we'll get you a permission code back.
And if you have any other questions about field placement or whatever, first maybe rewind the video when we send it out tomorrow or post it on the website tomorrow to see if it was possibly answered in the video. But if not, you can always email that psych field placement at apu.edu and we would gladly answer your questions on that email as well.
And then once you're enrolled, you can reach out to your professor for meetings as well to help you figure out where you're going and what you want to be doing.
The deadline to send that email, again, you want to try and find your field site as soon as possible because it could take a while to get all of the paperwork processes done. But the deadline to kind of get enrolled in that course is just before the start of the term. So the class will start on January 10th, everyone. And the website, once again, is psychology.apu.edu. And there's on the left-hand side, you go to undergraduate, and then there's a section for Psych 455, and it gives you all of the information we talked about tonight in written format. And then tomorrow, we're going to upload this video so that you can watch it back in video format as well.
Okay. All right, thank you all for coming, and we look forward to seeing you in classrooms next semester for 455 or in the summer or the fall.
Mm-hmm.